Hi, friends, and welcome to this show, The Art of Loving Well. Now, in this show, we're going to explore some rich, some relevant truth to help us love well. We're going to look at some wisdom, some truth, because I believe that to love well is to live well. And I believe that the most important growing we can do is growing in love. Now, in this show, we're going to start today a very special series called Date Talk. And we're going to look at helping you and anyone who needs some help to do relationships well. So this Date Talk is a 6-part series. And in this, we are specifically trying to help those of you who are single, those of you who are not yet married, to navigate this exciting, often challenging, often difficult, often confusing journey of relationships. And I know there's some of you out there who need some serious help. So just say to yourself or someone around you, I need help. Okay? And that's what today's session is called, I Need Help. Now, I know that there are some watching who are married, and I just want to encourage you, you will get something out of this because there is going to be some rich, relevant truth that will help all of us on this journey of relationships. First, let me introduce myself. So my full name is Wolfgang Eckleben. I was born in an African country called Namibia, tiny nation just sort of north of South Africa. My home language is German. I was raised in South Africa, and 22 years ago, my wife and I left Cape Town, South Africa, to come to the greatest city in the world, London, to come and plant a church here. We have a passion for young people, for students, and for nations. So we arrived at London Heathrow Airport, literally with our 2 backpacks and a vision. We'd never been here before, knew nobody, and we had a huge, big, scary vision that we felt was from God to start this church for young people and for the nations. We had a crazy difficult start, as you can imagine. We hadn't even been married for 2 years at that time. As I said, we didn't know anybody here, but God is faithful, and we've, in these 20-plus years, just seen amazing things happen. A wonderful Every Nation London church started here. Congregations, other congregations in London, churches across Europe, and together with our Every Nation family, we really are excited about what God has done. But here's something I've realized through this journey, is that one of the most important things in any journey, whether it's been successful, whether it's been difficult, and man, we've had our difficult times, is how we do relationships. If we don't do relationships well, the good book says that without love, you are nothing. So as successful as you or I or we might feel, if we don't do relationships well, if we don't love well, we are nothing. A church that doesn't love well is nothing. Now, what is nothing? Nothing is like you take all that you've done, all the great things you've done, or the miracles you've seen, or the power, whatever's great thing has happened, you take all of that, you multiply it by 0, and you get what? You get 0. Anything, the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13 says, anything we do, if we multiply it by no love, we get 0. I don't know about you, but that motivates me to want to love well. A church without love is 0. A Christian without love is 0. A life without love is 0. And that should motivate us to say, I want to be somebody who learns to love well. And that's why I'm so passionate that these truths, and I'm passionate to share these truths with you, to share these truths with us, to help us love better. Because I believe as we grow in love, this is the greatest growing we can do. This is the foundation. This is the bedrock. Without love, we are nothing, and I don't want to be nothing. How about you? Nothing, zilch, 0, whatever you want to call it. I want to be a lover. So let's make a commitment to be lovers and to learn to love well. Now, don't switch off if you're already married, as I've said. Don't say, well, I've heard this all before. I mean, I know how to love. I know how to say I love you. Okay, there's going to be something here that I believe will really impact and change your life. Now, we all have relationship stories, don't we? We're talking about dating here. We're talking about to single. We have relationship stories. And I want to show you a little picture now of these little cute little kids two kids kissing, there's one looking by. And I don't know, if you look at this picture, what's your story? What's your story? As you just sort of pause and just look back, gaze into the past, what's your story? And as we do that, most of us will probably look back and say, wow, it's a bit of a mess. There have been ups and downs, and we need to face that. And as we share today, as we share in this session, and in these 6 sessions, maybe some stuff will come up, because our stories and where we are now are all different. We carry things with us. You know, maybe there's some watching or here today who are divorced, separated. Maybe you have a relationship, but it's just run empty. You know, it used to be moonlight and roses. Now it's just daylight and dishes. You know, maybe you look back at your story and you see you've been abandoned, you've been abused, you've been hurt, you've been dumped. You know, you've been just neglected. You know, there's whatever is in your story that just causes some pain. You've been cheated on, you've been used. I mean, all the stuff that happens on this crazy relationship journey. Maybe you're here today and you're watching and you're single and you're finding singleness difficult. You're finding the waiting difficult. As you think about your past is one thing, but as you think about your future, that's like, there's no hope. There's like, what is there for me? And I think I just want to encourage you, in all of these scenarios, I trust that some truth will come to you that brings faith, that brings freedom, and that brings hope. Because God has a hope for you. God has a future for you. And here are a couple of things. God is a restorer. So whatever mess you've made of the past, He has a future for you. He is the God who is able to restore. He says to us, Jesus said to us, to His disciples, He said, how many times should we forgive? 70 times, 7 times. Listen, if He asks us to forgive that much, how much will He forgive you and I? How much will He look at your past and say, that's okay, invite me into your present and into your future, and I can do something about it. I am the great restorer. And He's the God who has a hope for us. He is the God who has a future for us. He has a good future for you, filled with hope. And I just want to encourage you, as whatever your past looks like, invite Him into your present, commit your future to Him, and say, God, help me. Because we all need help. And that's the title of today, this introduction session. We all need help. You need help. I need help. Now, when it comes to me, I needed a lot of help, right? My wife, Ali, will testify of this. I needed a lot of help. I was probably the most useless and clueless boyfriend anybody has ever had on the face of this planet. I grew up, I was not a Christian. I grew up, I did not have a clue how to treat women. I didn't have any role models in my life that I could look to that I thought, wow, that is something I want to emulate. I don't think in any of my school years, I had anyone who said anything helpful to me about how to do relationships, how to treat women, how to be a man. I didn't realize that there's a big difference between a male and being a man. You know, I'm born a male, but I'm mature to be a man. There's a huge difference between a female and a woman. And we're gonna help you. If you are looking for someone, don't look for a male or a female. Look for a man or woman, because there's, you know, being born is a matter of birth. Being a male is a matter of birth, but being a man is a matter of maturity. So we'll get to more of that good stuff. But I needed help. I needed serious help. And it was only when in fact, I'd become a Christian at about the age of 18. I heard the good news of Jesus. I responded. My life was changed. I was passionate for Jesus. I was in a new relationship with God. My sins had been forgiven. My past had been wiped out. It was amazing. I was passionate for Jesus. But you know what? I still didn't know what to do with my passion for women. I was still, just because I was a Christian, just because I was now someone who was a disciple, a follower of Jesus, I still needed a lot of help and wisdom and truth that would actually help me in relationships. So while I was passionate for Jesus, my passion in relationship was still all messed up. So we need to continuously say, I need wisdom and skills to help me in every area of my life, including doing relationships well. And it was only when I began to get some truth about what it means to relate to women, what it means to understand myself as a man, some truth about sex, when all that stuff began to shape me and come into my life, that I really began to be ready to have a relationship. And I know Ali is very happy that happened. Okay, and those around you will be very happy when you grab hold of some skills, some truth, some wisdom on how to do relationships well. Now, of course, when we want to ask, well, where can I get some help, There's a lot of advice out there. Take, for instance, this advice from kids aged 5 to 10 who were asked the following questions. One question, what is the proper age to get married? Judy, 8 years old, says, at 84. Because at that age, you don't have to work anymore and you can spend all your time loving each other. Tom, 5 years old, says, once I'm done with kindergarten, I'm going to find me a wife. Next question, what do most people do on a date? That could be helpful, right? Here's the answer. Mike, 10, says, on the first date, they just tell one another lies. That usually gets them interested enough to go for a second date. Ouch. Then there's the great debate. Is it better to be single or married? Who wants to know that? Okay, Lynette, 9 years old, says, it's better for girls to be single, but not for boys. Boys need someone to clean up after them. Kenny, 7 years old, says, is it better to be married or single? He says, it just gives me a headache to think about that stuff. I'm just a kid. I don't need that kind of trouble. Okay, that's some advice, but where do we go? Now, the world is full of advice. I mean, just click a button, search relationship advice, and all sorts of stuff will come to you through the good old internet. There's a lot of advice out there, but not all of it is helpful. Most of it is more about lust than it is about love. So where do we go? Where can we go to a place that can really help us? And I want to propose to you the best place to go when you want to get the most out of a product is go to the manual. Now, the word manual literally means the mind of the manufacturer recorded to give instructions so that the user can get the most out of the product. And so when we look at this product of life, of us, and of relationships, where's the manual? And I want to propose to you the Bible. The Bible is the manual of the manufacturer giving you instructions on how to get the most out of this product called relationships. Now, I don't know how you and your Bible are doing. Okay, I'm not sure when you look at the Bible, you say, man, that's just a book of laws. That's just, that's archaic stuff. Friend, when you understand this Bible, you understand that this is a great invitation to life. This is not just a bunch of instructions. This is the Creator's invitation, and any instructions here are to lead you into discovering the very best out of this product of life and out of relationships. Now, you may be watching and you're not a Christian, you're not a believer. You say, man, I'm not a religious person. Well, by the way, I'm not either. I'm into relationship, not religion. But you might say, I don't believe the Bible. Here's what I'd say. Just come on this journey with us. Okay, just say, because I believe there are principles in this Bible, in these scriptures, in this manual that will help you get more out of life than what you're getting from all the other sources of advice you're looking at right now. This truth will help anybody. Now, I do want to just say this is for free. Don't just look for principles out the Bible. Look for the person, because this Bible, this scripture is to reveal Jesus Christ. These things are written that you may know God, that you may Jesus, and that in knowing Him, you may have life. So don't just look for the principles, look for the person and the power of his name to change your life. But as we go to the manual, we might say, well, where do I start the manual? Now, listen, men, we're going to discover there's a difference in men and women, and men don't like reading manuals. I want to encourage you, read the manual, because you get the most out of it. But here, let's go to a portion in this manual in the book of Matthew. That's one of the Gospels. And here, chapter 19, and here we find Jesus being asked a difficult question about relationships. And basically, a bunch of guys want to trick him, and they say, hey, Jesus, is it allowed for a man to divorce his wife? So this is a question these guys are asking Jesus about relationships. Now, I don't know. I mean, that's a relevant question then, would you agree? We have all sorts of questions about relationships. It would be a relevant question today, the question of divorce. Some of you are facing that, have faced it, you've made decisions. What you might have right now, if we just paused here, you might have a lot of other questions you want to ask Jesus on relationship. Anyone got questions? Okay, somebody, you might want to say, well, what about sex and in marriage, before marriage? What about difficult questions about time? Same-sex marriage, all sorts of difficult questions. Somebody asked me just before the show today, how do I know when it's the right one? I mean, we could list a whole lot of questions, Jesus, I got some questions for you on dating. Here's how Jesus answers it. They asked him about divorce, and Jesus answers from Matthew chapter 19, and I'll just read 3 verses, verse 4. It says, he answered and said to them, have you not read that he who made them in the beginning made them male and female? And then he says, and for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be joined or united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So then, verse 6, they are no longer two but one flesh. Therefore what God has joined together, let no one separate. This is quite an interesting answer, wouldn't you say? Jesus is asked about divorce, and then he answers, and I believe as we just unpack this for a few minutes here, this will begin to give us some patterns, some introduction to how the manual instructs us to do relationships. Are you ready? Are you with me? So it starts with this. This is his first response. Have you not read? So Jesus, in fact, then quotes from right in the beginning of the book. So what he does is he basically gets out the blueprint for relationships. He says, look, I know you got loads of questions, but let's start with the original design, with the original purpose. And he says, okay, let me just tell you how it's supposed to work. Then any question you have can be filtered through that grid. Do you get what I'm saying? So he says, have you not read? And all of us need to decide where we're going to read, who we're going to listen to. I want to encourage you, some of you need to stop listening to some sources for advice on relationships, because they're just leading you down the garden path. You need to decide you need to close your ears to some things, some voices, some advice, and you need to open them to some healthy stuff, okay? So Jesus says, have you not read? Then he carries on, and he says that the Creator made them. Hey, this is good news. God made you. Isn't that exciting? He made you in his image, and this is what gives you value in your relationship. The fact that God made you, he made you unique, special, gives you a sense of value. But here's the other thing. It says he made them. He didn't just make you, he made the other two. The other person, the one you're after, the one you got your eyes on, is also valuable to God. And this means that in relationships, we don't just think about ourselves and our own value, we think about the other. The other is valuable to God, so treat them carefully. Don't defraud them. We're going to unpack that a bit later in another session. So he created them. Next we read, he made them male and female. So he created two separate, distinct individuals. Okay? The way you were born, the way you started is the way you're supposed to, the way you're born is the way you're supposed to start. Separate individuals. That's why in our next session, which is going to be called I'll Have a Whole One, Please, we're going to focus on me, on the one. Before we think about the other, let's think about ourselves, because he made them two individuals. He made them male and female, the manual says. They are different. Have you noticed? And we're going to have one session, a third session in this is going to be called Understanding the Opposite Sex, because one of the things that will help us hugely is to understand the other. You know, and they say men are from Mars and women are from Venus. They may not be, but how many of you know? Sometimes it feels like that. I mean, sometimes it feels the he motions and the she motions. I mean, that's just crazy to understand. So we're going to explore, and we have to, if we do relationships well, we have to understand the other. We have to learn to understand the other. And we're going to have a lot of fun with that one. Don't miss that in session 3. So he made them male and female. Here's another thing from the manual. It says that he made them and they will cleave together. The two will become one flesh. So God made them separate, but to be joined. And this is good news. God made you for relationship. And our sexuality, the joined and become one flesh, speaks to us about our sexuality. You know, as a single person, you might say, man, I wish God had just given a switch somewhere. Couldn't I just have an off switch, switch off my passion, and then when I say I do, we just flick it on, and then it's good to go. Wouldn't that be amazing? But you know, we're going to explore in the last session of this series, we're going to explore sex talk and understanding sex, the mystery, the manual, and the myths of sex. And when you get that, that's going to be awesome for you. But I just want to say to you, just at this point, your and my sexuality remind us, the good thing about it, the God thing about it, is that they remind us, firstly, as single people, that we were created for relationship. Because without our sexuality, in all of the journey and the disappointments, we get hurt and we start hiding, right? We start hiding because, and we get the walls up and we hide behind all sorts of stuff because we've been hurt. But because of our sexuality, it always, you know, we always start looking over the wall again. You know, we always want to come out because there's something in us that reminds us we were wired to not be alone. So celebrate your sexuality as a reminder that you were created for relationship. So then the last bit of this manual part here says this. Okay, so the two become one. And then it says, what God joins together, let no one separate. Again, the manual says God is in the joining together business. That's good news. So if you're looking for someone to set you up, trust him. Trust him. He's in the joining together business. But then it says this, let not man separate. Now that's not the male man only, okay? That's generic man. I know men are very good at separating, okay? Hiding in caves and behind fig leaves and all that stuff. You know, but there is something in us, man and woman, that as much as we yearn to be joined, there's stuff that comes and separates. And this is the tension. This is why we need help. We need help for truth to come and set us free. We need help for faith to overcome the stuff that has hindered us. So this is what we're all going to explore in this series, to help us get over the stuff that separates us. You know, there's a lot of stuff that may be in your heart, in your life right now, that's separating you. It could be sin, it could be lust, it could be ignorance, it could be the hurts of the past, it could be just lies that you believe, it could be just false thinking that you've got, stinking thinking that's in your head, all sorts of stuff. And it could just be, I don't understand. You know, when I was trying to figure out relationships and I was a Christian, I was sincere, but I discovered that I can be sincere, but I can also be sincerely wrong. Just because my intentions are right doesn't mean I'm going to get a right solution. I need skills, I need wisdom, I need truth, I need help. So that's what we're going to explore in this series. Now, the next 5 sessions, I just want to tell you quickly what's coming up so that when this program finishes, you want to make sure you tune in for the next one, okay? So the next session we're going to do is called I'll Have a Whole One, Please, right? So this is about the preparation, the best preparation you can do for future relationships. What is that? It's a commitment to personal wholeness. So I'll Have a Whole One, Please. Do not miss that one. The next one we'll do is called Understanding the Opposite Sex. I've said a bit about that. But it's so important to understand To be understood and to understand is foundational to any healthy relationships. We typically give to others what we want ourselves, and that doesn't work. The next one we will do is called Lessons from Lover's Lane, How Not to Do It. How many of you know? There are always two ways to do something, the right way and the wrong way. And the Lessons from Lover's Lane is us looking at how does it typically work, and why does that typical journey often end up in a ditch or with a dent, or at least with a few bruises. And then in the next one we call it doing it the highway. There is a highway. There is a right way to do it. There is a holy way. And holy living, by the way, is happy living. And we'll show you what is this, what does that journey look like that I can take to do relationships right. And then the last one, it's going to get very hot in this house, is going to call sex talk. Straight talking about sex and the myths and the mystery and the manual on sex. So that's what the rest of the series looks like. Now, I'm aware that there's going to be so much more you want to talk about. There are great resources out there, but I'm trusting that these truths will really lay a foundation for your relationship journey. And they'll be a catalyst to help you look for the right other advice and truth to go on this journey. Now, every one of these, as we come to the end of this, every one of these sessions are going to end with a date truth. Right? And the date truth of this session is, we all need help. You're not alone in that. We all need help. So just say that to yourself, to somebody, we all need help. And I want to encourage you, ask God for help. You know, there's a saying that God helps those who help themselves. It's not true. God helps those who ask Him. So I want to encourage you, ask God for help. Give yourself to Him. As I said, take your past. Say, Lord, help me with my past. God, help me with my past. I give it to you. I consecrate is a big Bible word, manual word. Consecrate means to do something today that'll set you up to receive what God has for you tomorrow. And what you do today is you take your past, you say, God, I need help with that. You take your present, you say, God, I need help with that. And as you do, God will help you. So remember, to love well is to live well. We'll see you next time for I'll Have a Whole One, Please.